All right. So, welcome back to episode 2 of the podcast. Uh looks like I'm still sticking consistent. Uh okay. So, now what? Uh I mentioned last episode, I kind of alluded to it. I wanted to talk about the experience of starting a podcast because it's not really as simple and as straightforward as it is with starting a YouTube channel. Like, it's not just create an account and then hit upload video or upload podcast or upload audio file. It takes a bit more work, and it was honestly really infuriating. But anyway, let's get right to it. So who should start a podcast first of all? Honestly, I think anyone who's even had the vaguest idea of starting one, whoever had like a random thought that said, oh, maybe I should start a podcast, you should start one. It's really easy. You really don't have to put much work into it. It's not really that technical. You don't need to know how to work a camera, or you don't need to know how to, I don't know, mix or anything. You really don't need to know much. You just need to know how to speak, and that's really powerful. It's very easy to share ideas that way. So yeah, I think everyone should do it, and it can be as long as you want. It can be 6 minutes long. It can be 8 minutes long. It can be 3 hours long. It can be like a Joe Rogan style 3 hour long interview podcast. Whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Unlike blog posts, it can be long. Like blog posts or YouTube videos, they kind of cater to an audience that has a shorter attention span, and you kind of have to make it short so that people will listen to it, or people don't even have the time to listen to it. But or and read it. Blog posts, if you have a really long blog post, many people just put off reading it and they just won't read it at all. And that's not the case with the podcast. Podcasts, when you go to listen to a podcast, there is the expectation that it will be long. And when it is long, people are used to it. People know what to expect with a long podcast. That is something that is really like freeing. You can go into as much detail as you want, and you're not limited by the audience in any way. I guess you are to some extent, but not by time, not by a time constraint anyway. So yeah, it can be as long as you want. It doesn't matter, and it requires extremely little gear to get started. You can record a podcast just out of your phone, and you can upload it, and it'll work. It'll be fun. Yeah. So so now, how do you start a podcast? This is the difficult part. It's not like starting a new YouTube channel. So first of all, let's start from the top. Let's start end to end. So what I personally do is I write a blog post. I have ideas that I've gone throughout the week, and then I go and I write it down into the into my notes app, and I write a blog post and I upload it. And right now the blog post has been uploaded, and I'm recording the podcast. And now I have a bunch of notes, and these notes are just points that I want to hit. It's not scripted in any way because I don't know. I don't think it'll work for this kind of this medium. So yeah. Anyway, it is. So I have notes, and I just go through the notes, see what I have to hit. It's off the cuff, unscripted, straight out of my brain. Um. So yeah, I have that. So what I do is I record it using my microphone, Blue Yeti, and I record it into Ableton Live. You really don't have to do this. It's honestly overkill, but what you need two main things. You need a mic, and a phone mic honestly works incredibly well because phones nowadays have incredible mics. Not incredible, pretty good mics. Could use a phone mic. You could connect headphones to the phone and record into that. And you need software to record your audio. Basically, you need something that picks up the audio and something that registers the audio. Now, for in terms of the registering part, if you're on phone, just use your voice memos app. Honestly, it'll work most of the time, and it's really chill. It'll work like really well. And if you want to go a bit more extreme, you want to go a bit more professional, you can, in quotes that is, if you have an iPhone, you can use GarageBand. It is it is mainly music software, but it does have pretty powerful recording capabilities. And BandLab if you're on Android. Now, if you're on a computer, you just use Audacity. Honestly, it's free and it's also really powerful. You have access to all sorts of audio inputs. You can record however long you want it to be. You have a bunch of inbuilt plugins. You can export to a whole variety of audio formats, and it's really very easy to use. You don't need to know anything to use Audacity. So yeah, use Audacity. And if you want, if you're a music person, music people will know this already. You can use a DAW. Again, in my case, I'm using Ableton Live, but yeah, you can use anything. Use Logic, GarageBand, whatever floats your boat. Now, what you do next is you export your audio file as a wave, and you need to come up with cover art and a title. Of course, a title honestly doesn't have to be anything too crazy. Mine is a pretty dumb title. It's my the blog title, just repurposed. But yeah, now what you have to do next is you need a place to host it. It's actually similar to a website in the sense you need a hosting service. There are options like Podbean and Overcast, and now Substack also has a podcast hosting service, I think. And what I actually use is something called Anchor.fm. It is a free hosting service. Most of these hosting services actually cost money, which is kind of messed up. So this is free. It is actually it has been recently acquired by Spotify. So it has pretty a well built Spotify integration. So you create an account on Anchor.fm, and what you do there is, of course, you create your details, you start a follow the instructions, create a new episode, upload your files, do whatever. They have tools to help you create cover art and stuff, and you can always change this whenever you want. It doesn't matter. So yeah, you can on Anchor upload your podcast. Now, what is good about Anchor is you don't have to worry about Spotify. Spotify is dealt with, but once your podcast is live, you will have something called an RSS link. You take your RSS link, and Anchor itself will actually help you with this. It'll redirect you to a bunch of the other places, the other podcast apps like Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts. It'll basically redirect you there, and it'll redirect you to their portal, and you basically paste your RSS feed into that, and that's how your podcast gets to work. Now, what I've noticed is the Anchor links don't work, which is really annoying. You have most of the time they redirect to the homepage, which it's just messed up. It doesn't work most of the time, and you have to do all of this manually. So if I want to upload to Apple Podcasts, you have to go to the Apple Podcast thing, paste your RSS, and then verify it or something. Then after that, we do the same thing for Google and the same thing for Pocket Casts, same thing for everything. And if you're not using Anchor, you'll have to do the same thing for Spotify also, which is really, really annoying. Now, this, like, most of the time, it's just grunt work. Like, you just have to spend time and do it. But there are some places that are just extremely weird. So, for example, Apple Podcasts, they need a valid Apple ID. That is an Apple ID, or activated rather is their word. They need an Apple ID which has a payment method, a valid payment method. But yeah, it needs a valid payment method for some stupid reason. And to create the payment method, to write down or to register your payment method, you need an Apple device, which is it's really annoying. Anyway, so that's the reason why my podcast is not on Apple Podcasts yet. Now, after this, you can also just upload it to YouTube. Like, you go and you can, if you want to, you can just, what I do is I use a photo as my title, so it's kind of like just an audio thing, and I put my the wave file underneath I export it, and I upload it onto YouTube. Now, yeah, this is the main thing. It's the start that is the most the hardest part. You need to spend some time getting all your things together, like the places where you're going to upload it and stuff. But after that, it gets pretty simple. It's it's just annoying that there's no centralized place to do anything. There should be some place to just upload your podcast and everything gets there. Like the RSS feed goes everywhere automatically, but it's not. Anyway, so now why should you do it? What should you talk about? Honestly, talk about anything. I am literally, this is the most meta podcast in the world, and I am talking about making a podcast in a podcast. You talk about anything. And it's the best place to talk about anything you want because you can go off the rails, you can go into as much detail as you want. No one will care. I mean, people will care, but it doesn't matter because that's what this format is made for. And it can be a very good side hustle. It doesn't require that much work, honestly. You don't need to edit stuff. Although, if you are using Audacity and stuff, if you want, you can edit, but you really don't need to. You can, it doesn't require that much work. And eventually, if you get an audience, I think it'll work as a pretty good side hustle. And it lets people know you more as a person because they're just listening to so much more of you. Uh, I read somewhere, I think it was in a David Perel blog post. I read somewhere where I read somewhere that he recommended that working people who are working in like jobs, they should have a podcast for employers, like rather as a like a secondary thing to their CV. I think his idea was because the employers will get to know them and the applicant and their views on stuff better. I don't know. I'm not the right person to say how useful it is, but it's just food for thought. Anyway, yeah, you should make one. You can talk about anything you want. It doesn't really matter. And I don't know. Maybe you can use it to log stuff, things, interesting experiences you've had, interesting thoughts you've had throughout the week, throughout the month, whenever, however often you want to do it. You can talk. You can share your thoughts on life, whatever. Doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know. That's not for me to decide for you. Anyway, no. Yeah, so that's it. That's the podcast. That's how to start a podcast. Make sure to comment if you have any questions. Uh, I believe if you're on Anchor itself, you can message me and I guess I will get back to you. Uh, so yeah, now yeah. Now let's talk about my week. I've had kind of an eventful week. It's been extremely long, extremely tiring, and trying to manage all of this along with schoolwork, which is hard, and I have to study as well, which is also going to take a lot of time. So yeah, just taking some time. I think it'll take a couple of weeks for me to get used to the whole thing, but I think after that it'll be fine. I'll get the hang of it, and it'll all be okay. Now, yesterday actually, the 30th of July, we got stuck in the rain like really badly. We had gone out to meet some people. There was an event and stuff, and like family stuff, and we were going back, and it was raining like crazy. We could barely get in the car, and it rained extremely heavily. The roads were all flooded. The water came up to the rear bumper, which was kind of crazy, and it was so heavy that you could barely hear the navigation on the car. It was a ridiculous experience. I actually have a couple of photos on it on my photo diary, which you should check out. Actually, I actually am really proud of the photos I've taken. It's on mukundshyam.wordpress.com. Shameless plug. Now, yeah, here's an interesting thing I learned. Uh, there was an Ali Abdal video pretty recently where he talks about 28 life lessons he had when he turned 28. And one of the things was planning is a different mindset to doing. I get caught into this a lot. I tend to plan to do stuff a ton and I don't actually end up doing it. Like I spend way too much time and effort in the planning part, and I don't really end up what do you say, actually doing the things. That's, yeah, an interesting food for thought. uh Whatever you do, don't spend too much time planning, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the right person to say it. I think it's kind of ironic if I say it. Anyway, but I digress. Last thing I wanted to talk about is the YouTube channel. It is, I intended on starting to upload on Monday, but I didn't get enough time to work on any scripts, or I didn't couldn't shoot stuff. So I there is still some maintenance work to be done to my system and stuff. And I guess I should be able to make stuff from next week, from the 8th of August. I think that should be the main video. The podcast is now on YouTube also, if you want to watch it. So yeah, that is there. And I think that's it for this week. So yeah, thanks for hanging around and listening to me ramble for however long this has gone for. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. I tune in next week. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I'll figure out something throughout the week. And yeah, we'll see. Have a good week. Don't stress out too much. Have fun. And yeah. Yeah, make sure to check out everything. The photo diary. The website. Everything's there. Everything's there. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm going off the rails, and I should stop before it gets too late. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.